Today we're going to walk through how to use our free databases so that you can find information on your Part 135 operator. So it should be noted that our website carries information only on Part 135 air carriers. This is not airlines or private individuals. So if you're flying privately, if you're doing an air tour, sometimes you may or may not find information. Air tours, for example, don't always have to have Part 135 certificate. They can operate on what's called Part 91 rules. So in those cases, some of that information may not show up on the 135 list, so just be advised of that. So on our homepage, as you can see, we update monthly with what, first of all, the carrier sizes are, what size aircraft and certificates are currently listed with the FAA. We do get this information from the FAA monthly. Our investigation information comes from FAA sources as well as NTSB sources. We also have 135 operators ranked by number of investigations on the beginning of the site here. This with a grain of salt because it's important to understand the cases and everything that happens with these investigations. Sometimes an investigation is opened because someone rolled their ankle when getting off the aircraft, bird strike. There could be things that aren't the responsibility of the operator, but just happen to cause an incident or accident. So it's important to really look at those in detail. But just for a rule of thumb here, we have listed all of the certificate holders, their other business names, the fleet sizes, and the number of cases that have been opened. This data is currently from January 2020 to present. We will continue to update this as time goes on. But we've got a little rule of thumb here. It's the number of cases divided by the fleet size. This kind of gives you an indication of, okay, how many incidents or accidents is this operator trending based on their size? Obviously, the larger your fleet is, the more potential incidents you'll have. Isn't necessarily an indication of the safety of the company or not, but it's useful to know, especially if comparing apples to apples. Let's say someone has a similar size fleet and one has a higher rate than the other, you may be able to make some assessment there. So that's here listed on this front page. You can sort that information however you'd like by operator type, fleet sizes, from small to large. Keep in mind that when there's some of these that are unlisted, there's more information in these individual profiles, so that's why you might see some zeros and numbers here that don't make any sense. But you can sort through here as you'd like. All right, so let's pop into the operator search bar. So the purpose of this is to really be able to figure out, who the operator is, make sure that whoever you're flying with is legally listed on a 135 certificate, and also understand, are there any other business names, or are there any owners of the company that you may not be familiar with? Just to keep things easy here, we're going to go with FlexJet, which is a really large operator. There'll be lots of information in here. So we click into FlexJet and we can see here, very large operator. These are their other business names. Directional Aviation is a parent company. Flight Options is a sister company. We try to put as many pieces of information as we can find in here as things pop up over time. The initial page, you'll get, the number of investigations that they've had, the fleet size, their website, and the certificate number. If you want more detailed information, please note that you'll have to sign up for our premium operator search button. This just gives you really basic stuff like website and information on them. But let's open up this page. So as we can see here, this is the kind of information that we have for the basic operator search. Shows you, who's managing their certificate. They're based out of Rochester. That's the FAA inspector that's looking at them. We're also updating as many news stories and links to the stories that we can. If you see anything wrong, and this is on any of the website pages, click here to request an update to submit that information to us that it's not currently correct. All right, so that is the basic operator search. Again, this is just a way to verify, is this a company that's legally authorized by the FAA to fly, and how many aircraft are in their fleet. And again, note, if it's an air tour operator, they may not be listed here, and that's perfectly normal, but it's up to you whether or not you want to fly with an air tour operator that does not have an FAA certificate, because that means they are not held to the same standard as a 135 operator. All right, so let's pop into investigations. So investigations, this is where you're going to be able to look up the actual incidents that have occurred with operators. This part of our site will always be free. We want to make sure that consumers and anyone else that's getting information in the industry has easy access to this. Keep in mind, there's a lot of stuff that we've taken out here because it's not super relevant for everyone. We're covering Part 135 operators, fractional companies, and some 91 operation, any 91 operation that has aircraft on a 135 certificate. We do not include skydiving, law enforcement, power line survey, or agricultural related flights, just because those are really more industrial use cases, and we don't consider those as relevant for consumers, at least in this format. We do also have air tour and sightseeing flights in here, as, let's say, a helicopter tour operator that doesn't hold a 135 certificate has an accident or an incident. We try to include this in the database so that you can find that information easily, even if they don't have a 135 certificate. That information is hit or miss. We're working on updating it as much as we can, but we're trying to at least keep it within the last couple of years current, so people who are looking for a helicopter tour operator can find that information. All right, so here we have, this is just an aggregated table of everything that's in our database from 2020 to 2025, again, excluding law enforcement, power line, that sort of information. And this shows you the current data set is currently 2018 to present. This is NTSB cases, and 2020 to present FAA cases. Keep in mind there's a difference between the NTSB and the FAA in terms of what kind of information they provide to us, but we try to provide everything that we can. So what you'll find down here, you can easily search by, the manufacturer of the aircraft, the tail number, the operator, any sort of things that may tie back to an incident or an accident, just so you can easily find it. Again, just because we used FlexJet earlier, let's use them here to take a look at the cases that are on file. All right, as we come in here, this is just your basic page. We've got the date of the occurrence, the legal operator's name, severity of injuries, and the registration number. Let's go ahead and open this up. And again, you'll get the full detail on this. We always want to leave our investigation information free, so you do not need a premium subscription to access any of this information. Okay, so here's what we have for this incident, which was just an incident, no aircraft damage, and there's usually a small description of what happened. Aircraft ran over a taxiway and went to the grass. So no injuries, no fatalities. We can also tell you, when we actually updated this record in our database. So this record was updated on 3/12 of 2025. You get all the information here, including what part it was operating under. If we have it, we'll put information like weather, probable cause, purpose of flight. This is really hit or miss depending on the investigating agency. So usually FAA, for example, isn't as detailed, but we try to get this as accurate as we can. NTSB cases will generally have more for you, such as the purpose of flight. We'll also include links to the NTSB records. So let's look at one that actually has some fatalities and maybe an NTSB case, just to give you a little more information. We'll look at, okay, this was a recent one, Smoky Bay Air Inc. This was a fatal accident. So this happened in Alaska. We've got 2 fatalities, 1 serious injury. Because this is a pending report, we will not have a URL, but as time goes on and things update, the URL will get updated there. All right, well, that's what we have for our free features of the website. Lots of information in here also if you ever want to look up accident articles. We try to post as many articles associated with other cases we have, such as that plane crash we were just looking at. So you can open this up and take a look at the actual story on what happened. Like in this case, it looks like there was a dog on the runway potentially that caused the crash. Again, to request updates is here. Any information you see on the site that's incorrect or you want to have revised, please submit this. We check this every 48 hours so we can make sure our databases are as updated as possible. We also have consumer resource articles here so that you can take a look at some of the advisories. We just recently sent out an advisory on iceless coolers and some of the hazards associated with those, as well as other information here. So thank you so much. We appreciate your support. Just a little more about us. We are an independent nonprofit. We do not accept funding from the industry because we want to make sure that we are as unbiased as possible. We are supported by our premium subscribers, which we'll cover in another video what our premium databases give you in terms of information. But that's how we sustain ourselves and our independent investigation information. So thank you again for checking out this video, and we hope you will join us at PASA.